Hey everyone, welcome to this Immersive Insights with Synergy XR. Today we have special guests joining us from LMS 365. We have a little bit of an exclusive integration going on. So today we're going to be talking about transforming learning and training with extended reality with very special guests today. Robin Daniels and our very own CTO, Suna Wolf. I'm going to let you guys do your own introductions. I think you can probably do it a little bit better than I can. On you go, Dan.
Sounds good. Well, it's good to be here, first of all. I'm Robin Daniels. I'm the Chief Business Officer at LMS 365. I joined the company a few months ago in June of 2023 after spending about 20 plus years in Silicon Valley working at various companies, including Salesforce, Box, LinkedIn, WeWork, and most recently I was the head of marketing, the chief marketing officer for a company called Matterport, which also played in a similar space. So love the idea of how immersive reality, mixed reality, virtual reality can really help us become much more engaged in the things that we're doing, whether that's learning or experiences and so on. So I'm excited to be here and to really talk about how that applies to learning today.
Cool. And Suna?
Good stuff. Yeah. My name is Suna Wolf. I'm CTO and co-founder of Synergy XR. I also have the main product responsibility of our platform. So sort of how we tailor the roadmap to fit to our customers' needs, looking into strategic partnerships and integrations like the one we're going to talk about today. So very shortly about
and how are you feeling? You just ran a marathon, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, thanks for mentioning that. I'm doing okay.
Okay. You're still walking, though. That's good.
Exactly. I'm up for it.
Good.
All your energy hasn't been spent yet.
Exactly. You're still here. It's great.
Never.
I just realized, I didn't even present myself. My name's Andy Grantham. I'm head of marketing here at Synergy XR. So basically my role is to kind of promote Synergy XR in different platforms. And today I'm the host, obviously, so I'm not the brains behind what we're going to be talking about. I'm going to leave all that to you guys because you guys know a little bit more than I do. So, but just a kind of, informal chat discussion, and we'll bring it on from there. So, jumping a bit far ahead. Today we're going to be talking about a little bit about the integration. XR and learning in general. Kind of why? What's the purpose behind it? What value does it create for the customers? Not only for ours, but for you guys at LMS 365 as well. The objectives as well as and what do you want to expect? What can someone expect from this? And we might have a little bit of an exclusive reveal if you're lucky, everybody. So I know some people today might be joining us who might know LMS 365 and others might know Synergy XR. So for the purposes of that, we're going to have a little quick introduction to Synergy XR from Suna, just so that you guys that maybe don't know a little bit about us, we can talk a little bit about that to start with.
Yeah. So Synergy XR is what we call a no-code XR platform. And when we say XR, it's sort of to cover all of the different technologies, all the way from virtual reality, mixed reality, and augmented reality. So we cover all of those. It's a no-code platform, so meaning the end users themselves can very quickly set up their own experiences, training experiences, onboarding experiences, and even remote support use cases can be covered in our platform. We support most the most relevant XR devices, so everything from the Meta Quest 2 that you can see on the shelves behind us to PC and iOS and iPadOS devices. So covering sort of the whole range. That's basically Synergy XR in a nutshell. So instead of having a expensive solution where you need to have experts to code everything for you, you can pick up Synergy XR and build your own training experiences.
Okay, cool. And so, Robin, did you know much about XR and virtual reality, things like that beforehand?
I mean, I was recently in the space with Matterport, right? And we were kind of, certainly not the same as what Synergy XR does, but we had a 3D camera that we would use to scan a space, commercial or residential. And then we also released a version for the phone, an Android or an iPhone that a company or an individual could use to actually scan a space. And then you can, of course, share that space with somebody on the other end on a phone or a laptop or in a headset could walk through that space as if they were there. So I'm not the expert, but I know enough to be dangerous, I would say, in this space.
Yeah, you've tested a little bit. We gave you a little bit of a tester earlier
exactly.
as well.
It was awesome. I mean, it's just... It's so different when you're actually in the space itself. It's kind of like, it's a good metaphor for life, I think, in many ways. It's like reading about something in a book, when you're in school. It's great, you get the theory, but it's not like really the same as going out and actually doing it in real life, whether that's marketing or sales or product development or whatever it is. It's getting the actual experience itself is way stickier and way more memorable. And of course, this is where we are now in terms of the evolution of where headsets and virtual reality, mixed reality comes together, I think, in a really beautiful way. It feels like we're at the dawn of something that is just where the technology is there. It's mainstream. It's getting mainstream enough, and we can certainly talk about that. But where you also have enough applications and use cases to make it actually really useful. It's not just a fun toy that's for gaming anymore. It's actually like there are real business applications for this, which I'm excited to dig into.
Yeah, I can tell you, my son likes it for the gaming side of it
course.
very much.
Yeah, I mean, of course.
But so that's he thinks.
But it was always for gaming, right?
Yeah,
Now it feels
yeah.
like we've gone way beyond that. I mean, I remember trying my first headset maybe even 20 years ago or so, right? When I was over in Silicon Valley with, I think it was like Alone in the Dark or something like that, some game, a horror game. And it was cool, but it was like after a couple of minutes, you're like, okay, I don't know. And we've come so far, right? And the applications, especially in a world where travel's going up, we're thinking about climate in a very different way. We're thinking about how do you engage employees. This is like the beginning of actually, I think, a revolution in how you take care of some of these issues. So, yeah, it's exciting times.
Well, that leads well into, LMS 365. How do you guys, I mean, I know you're integrated into Microsoft 365 as one of the kind of the only LMS systems to do that.
Yeah, so basically we are the only AI-powered learning management system for the Microsoft ecosystem. There are a lot of LMS platforms out there, but we are 100% focused on the Microsoft stack. And that's a wise decision, not by me, but by the founding team and a lot of smart people in the company. But there are roughly 350, soon 400 million Microsoft users around the world, Microsoft 365 and Microsoft Teams. And we're the only platform that's really completely integrated into that stack. It looks like a Microsoft product. It feels like a Microsoft product. It basically is integrated into the stack. So for a company, in order to actually set it up, get it going with their users, there's really very little they have to do. And that's a superpower of ours. We also recently acquired a performance and engagement platform that we're going to add into the core as well, because we believe that the future is not just about learning, which of course we'll certainly talk about today, but it's also about how deeply engaged you are in the work that you're doing and ensuring that you're learning and engaging, but also performing at the right level. And of course, that also has a huge play in the mixed reality as well, because if you can engage more in the work you're doing and the task you're focusing on, your performance is going to be higher. And if you're then continually learning on top of that as well, you're going to continually be able to actually add more and more value to the company or the task at hand itself. So we are a learning platform today. We have about close to 2 million users around the world in over 60 countries. We recently acquired this other company, and we're focusing on just expanding that usage because there's such demand for what we do. Every company in the world, doesn't really matter what size you're focused on or what size you are, but we can sell our platform around the world to anyone who's really focused on the Microsoft ecosystem. We have close to 2,000 customers today of various sizes, anywhere from smaller companies with 50 to 100 employees, all the way up to plus 20,000 employees.
So it's a big spread.
Yeah, a big spread. Yeah, exactly. Well, it's the beauty of being a learning management system is everyone needs one.
Yeah.
Right?
But
So-
I mean, it just shows you though that the demands, regardless of what size you are, they're going to be there, and there's a kind of commonality in that sense.
Completely.
Cool. So I'm just going to put you a little bit on the spot now. If you want to put a headline on this, in terms of the LMS and the Synergy XR integration, how would you put it?
Well, I think of it, there's lots of different angles you can take. I basically think we are living in a world where if you look at any stat around people's engagement in the work that they do, there's so many of them out there. But I saw one recently that said that 2 out of 3 employees feel disengaged from work. They feel like they're not growing, they're not learning, they're not being developed. They're not really feel like they have any future in the company that they're at. So I think of it this way: we're sitting on this like gold mine of unlocked potential that we can unlock together. If we can figure out how to engage people more, how to develop their skills, how to train them for the future of what they need to be able to do, I think we can unleash an incredible amount of energy that I think we need, in our companies, but certainly also as a society to solve many of the bigger issues that we have. And so how do you do that? One thing is just the theory. Okay, so we see all the people are disengaged, they're unhappy, probably, maybe it's over-exaggerated, but even if the half of that number was true, let's say it's 1 out of 3 employees that are disengaged, it's still a shocking number to me. And so we have a responsibility to think about new ways to engage this future generation. And I think the idea of, a learning platform, of course, is essential to this, but it can't just be teaching people new skills, new ideas, using the same techniques that have always happened. It's clear to me that the idea of being much more immersed in what you do is way more valuable. And this is where the partnership, I think, really comes in, because if you actually put somebody in the flow of what they're doing, just like we call it learning in the flow of work, but it truly happens actually when you're in the space or in the environment itself, you're much more engaged. It's going to be much stickier. And of course, it's going to be much more valuable for the company itself, because you can also save costs. So there's benefit for the employee itself, learn new skills continuously, but also for the company in terms of actually making sure that the employees are always up to date with the latest, thing that they need to do. I saw also when I was working at LinkedIn for a while, and this is many years ago, but we had an annual state of learning report. And one of the stats that we had in that, because we did a lot of surveys, was that within the next 5 years, 90% of all the skills that an employee has was going to be outdated. And this is many years ago, right? So now with the acceleration of AI and all the things that are happening in the world, I would bet it's probably accelerating even faster. So a lot of your skills are going to be outdated. What that means to me is there's a huge obligation on the part of the company to actually ensure that your employees have the right tools and knowledge and skills to be able to do the best job of their life. It also motivates them. It makes them, obviously feel more fulfilled if you come in and actually know what you're doing and you feel like you're making a difference. So there's so many benefits, and we have to unlock that if we want to truly make our people more successful.
So happier, more engaged.
Yes, for sure.
More productive.
Sure. Yeah, exactly.
So how do you see that then, Sune, playing in? Obviously from the perspective of the platform that allows that immersive engagement.
I think it's very well put, and I very much agree. And that's one of the most well documented benefits of XR, right? It's much more engaging, much higher retention. You actually feel like you have been physically doing the actual work and not just read about it or seen a video. So we can bring all these benefits to the table, and that's also where I see XR is coming of age. We need to move it out of the innovation departments and small pilot projects. There are so many benefits here, but to fully sort of unlock those, you need to have an integration with learning management system, so you can actually manage that learning. You can monitor your employees and help them get to the right courses, to the right training, to upskill them to the level they need to be at. So that's where the integration, I think, is it's a necessity to unlock this potential.
Yeah, before we sat down here, Sune was giving me a demo of the platform and just trying to learn how to weld something in virtual reality. I was like, wow, you are really doing the work with your hands, and you're there in the environment. I mean, it's so sticky. It's completely different. If I sat there on a computer on a 2D screen, my mind would probably have wandered a little bit, because I've got a little bit of a scatterbrain. And this here is just you are 100% focused on what the task that you're doing. Your mind is not going anywhere else, right?
Exactly.
Super interesting.
Cool. Yeah. Well, I think that plays pretty well in to the next slide. Obviously, it just kind of showcases the partnership. And I know there's a story our CEO, Mess, he likes to tell about Grundfos, one of our companies that uses the system quite a lot. One of their HR partners told a story that, a picture tells more than 1,000 words, and whereas VR, it tells more than 1,000 pictures, in that sense. And so we have a quote here from Benjamin Franklin, tell me, and I forget. Teach, and I may remember. Involve me, and I learn. So it's all about the kind of involvement part, which I can, based on what you guys said there, is very much kind of the essence of what this is about. So tell me a bit more about, enhancing the learning journey in terms of, we've talked about a little bit about the integration, but, what's the goal? What's why?
Well, there's so many reasons why. I mean, certainly, there's different perspectives on this. If you're the company itself and you think about why should I do this, why should I go in and make this investment for my team and my employees and so on, it'll reduce costs, I'm sure of it. right, over time, and you don't have to fly people around to do training and so on. And it's also much more real time. It probably reduces the amount of training that you actually have to go through because it's much more sticky, like we just talked about. It's very, very immersive. You remember it much more. And like we also talked about, you're engaging your employee, you're showing that you're investing in them as well. Like we want you to become the best version of yourself and your skills. So that means we're investing in getting you trained. So I think that's huge from a company perspective, and that has endless benefits. It comes back to if you start with the Simon Sinek, start with why. Well, why are you doing this? Well, you're doing it because you're actually creating an environment where people are motivated to show up to do the best work of their life because they know they're being invested in. From an employee perspective, I think the benefits are just enormous in terms of being able to learn on the job or learn skills for the future in an environment that's more or less like being there. I mean, it's very, very hard to replicate. I mean, how else are you going to train people how to do, especially physical things, right? I mean, unless you have the environment or you send them around the world to various places to do so, it can be time consuming, cost prohibitive, all kinds of things. This here is a way to do it much faster, much lower cost, and where they are, right? So for the employee itself, you're upskilling yourself, you're learning new things, you're staying relevant, and you're also not wasting any time on it. I mean, we're living in a new world where the world of hybrid work and the world of like where people don't necessarily want to always be in the same space anymore. We saw that kind of the pandemic. It's like, okay, and now this is another accelerant to actually making this world a reality, because we started with this like being able to connect fully in like 2D. But now when you can also do it in 3D, and learning is a key part of that, but also I'm excited about the other applications as well of how do you connect with each other in much more of a virtual space as well, which I think is exciting. But for the employee itself, coming back to it, I think it's really about engagement. It really is about like making them engaged in the work that they're doing, making them engaged in learning and developing their skills. And if you do that, if you take care of your employees and their skills, they will stay motivated. It's like all the data shows that. And I'm sure probably at your company and our company as well, when people feel stuck or they feel like they're not learning or they're not being developed, that's usually when they go, should I go somewhere else? Mm-hmm. The grass is greener on the other side, right? Yeah. It's usually the cost for it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it makes sense. And I think that plays quite well. I mean, when you talk about it like that, it's almost like Ready Player One pops into my head, but from a more controlled kind of way of doing it. It's not going to be where we're all in kind of immersive suits where we're walking around, but it's kind of an integrated part of.
God, I hope not.
It's not well, exactly. But I mean, that's what some people see. They see these sci-fi movies and they think, oh, that's what it's going to be like. Yeah. But I don't think it necessarily is going to be developed that far.
No.
So these kind of play well into the benefits you talked about. I think this is from PricewaterhouseCoopers' Seeing is Believing report back in 2021. I think this number here is for this specifically for virtual reality training, where it was almost 300 billion expected revenue from virtual reality training. I think they actually said 1.5 trillion for the whole XR space is the projected income. So I mean. If that comes true, that's a massive market that's coming, and there's a lot of potential in that. And I think, Robin, it plays well into, people are 4 times, it's stickier. They learn things 4 times quicker than what they would have done otherwise in e-learning. And, they're more confident when using it in terms of an actual scenario in that sense. But I mean, does that play well into how you see it soon in terms of what we go and develop?
Yeah, and this is not only something from reports, right? Like we experience this ourselves with our customers, like where we see like complex training scenarios being cut down from like 6 weeks to like couple of days only. Like we had a good case at Grundfos as well, where they were relying on like an old experienced guy that just knew this machine in and out, but he was starting to look at retirement, right? So they wanted to digitize all of his knowledge. So we built this virtual reality based training, and then they pulled it in a guy from the street, like he had never been at Grundfos before, and instead of being taught by this experienced gentleman, he was just put in VR, and it took him like 4 days, and then he said, yeah, I'm ready. And then he did the exam like on the real physical machine, and he passed with flying colors. Like he said the only thing he just needed to adapt to was that in VR, like at one point he had to pick up like a crane controller that was like moving around some big heavy stuff, and that crane controller, of course, in VR it weighs nothing, right? But in real life he had to okay, that's actually it has quite a weight to it, but that was it. Like all the controls, everything was as he had been taught in VR. So you can just see, and that was the optimal training scenario. That was 6 weeks before. Sometimes it took like 3 months, and we could cut it down to 4 days. And we would even without being relying on this retiring gentleman and all of his knowledge, right? Because now it's been digitized. So yeah, much faster learning. It's also a lot of studies supporting like the stickiness, the retention of knowledge. Because one thing is, if you read an instruction or if you see a video, you remember bits and bobs, but you need to get your hands in there, as you said, right? It's a different feeling. You really get it on muscle memory. You built that muscle memory, so you just know what you need to do. You don't have to learn it. You actually get to know it, right?
I mean, you just ran your first marathon. Think about it, right? I'm sure you read a lot of articles about it, listened to podcasts, and talked to a lot of people who've done it. Like, this is what you got to do, and you're gonna hit this wall. You got to hydrate here and fuel up here. Yeah, it's nothing like when you're out there actually doing.
That's true. Right? That's true. I don't know if I could have trained that in VR. No, that would have been, maybe on a treadmill.
Maybe one day. But it's more like once you go through it, like going through it now, right? Yeah. And VR, the closest you'll get to the real thing, right? Yeah. Especially around like lots of these skills that you have to develop. Yeah. I mean, if you'd been able to do this on a treadmill and seeing like the highs and the lows hitting the wall, I mean, it would have been
That's true. Right? And also like the engagement, like you mentioned it just during that small demo we just did, right? Yeah. You're much more engaged. Like completely. I even at one point had a bit of difficulty getting through to you because you were just like so into the training scenario. Yeah, exactly. But so that also we actually put the user on that offshore platform or in that production facility. So it's not just something they really feel like they're there. They're much more engaged. They also understand some of the dangers, even though it's completely safe to train. That's another aspect that's really important, right? Learners feel more confident learning when they know they're safe. Yeah. So and some of the customers we have, it's big, heavy machinery where you can really hurt yourself, right? But learners are so much more confident because they know there's nothing they can do that will hurt them. So they will actually learn much, much, much better.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, once you're in that space, and for any of you who haven't tried it, I highly recommend figure out a way to try it. But I mean, you are 100% focused on the task at hand.
Exactly.
100%. There's not. You're not thinking about anything else. You're not thinking about your next meeting. You're just trying to do the thing that says on screen because it's in your face. You can't get out of it. Yeah. Of course, it's going to stick a lot more, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, of course.
Exactly.
I think some of the things we sometimes talk about as well. If you're working on a production line, for example, there's also the times where you might need downtime because you need to test or trial something. Whereas this then allows you to kind of do it without necessarily losing the revenue because you have to shut the machine down for 2 hours or something because or they have a window every week to kind of do the training in kind of thing.
Exactly. That was basically the case with the Grundfos case I mentioned earlier. They had to train when there was planned downtime or because it was a machine that had to run 24/7. So if they did not have planned downtime to train people, they would have to have unplanned, and that would reduce production, and that's very rapidly increase cost, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think we've been through some of these slides. It just kind of shows you, the benefits for the company. Obviously, we talked about the savings, this time saved. The fact that you don't have downtime on the machinery. People are quicker to retain the information, so you cut down on the training needed as well.
Well, a key part of the integration is really around also being able to, as a company, be able to see who's learning, what pace they're learning at, being able to certify them, track them, and so on. We haven't really talked about that because maybe we're getting into too much of the details, but it really is important. All the companies that we deal with, this is a key part of why they choose our company, is because they want to be able to actually have this kind of very detailed view of each employee and kind of how they're progressing through their learning journey. And we give them all that information. I give them the dashboards, the insights, the reports, the certifications for the employees itself. And it's just key. If you're going to go out and train somebody how to use something like the machinery I just learned in VR, right? You want to make sure that they know I've taken this course. Maybe I have to take it 3 times in order to actually really be fully certified. but you want to be able to actually have that knowledge and insight on the back end as well.
Talking of that, then, is that something the companies that you guys work with at LMS 365? I mean, in terms of being able to document it, because there might be some things that are kind of, I suppose the government say you have to have some kind of documentation, whereas the other part is the motivation of the company, like you talked about earlier.
Yes,
being able to document it just to show that people are developing and they want to still be there and they're motivated to go to work.
Yeah, so it's a great question. I mean, learning it, there's many different reasons why somebody needs to learn something. Sometimes you do it because you have to. There's no doubt about it, right? Because it's, hey, you're a new hire and we need you to take these courses before we let you loose. Okay, that's totally fair. And then there are other times where if you've expressed yourself that I want to actually get on a journey to become a manager, or I want to get promoted, or I want to maybe go into a new part of the job or a new part of the company, well, here are the courses you can take and the learning journey you can take in order for us to know that you actually have the skills and the knowledge to do so. And then, of course, there's the final part is when employees themselves just want to continually learn new things, that they're just curious about. That's also why we integrate with a lot of the content platforms. Our platform does not create the content itself. Our customers either create them themselves or they pull it in from a GoOne or a LinkedIn Learning or some other providers. So if you're a company, you could basically provide these huge learning catalogs to your employees. Oh, I want to learn marketing skills. I want to learn AI skills. I want to learn, communication skills. So there's the forced learning. Then there's more like okay, here's what we need to do in order to actually get to a certain point in your career if you want to get promoted. And then there's just the curious mindset, the growth mindset of people who continually want to become better versions of themselves for all kinds of reasons.
Yeah, there are also domains where certain certificates are actually needed in order to perform different tasks, and you can manage that as well, right?
Yes,
and you can download those certificates, so you have that in one central place, all managed.
That's right.
Yeah. So
good. So let's move on then. So the objective is in integration. I mean, I suppose getting into the nuts and bolts of it really a little bit. You might have covered a little bit of this already, but I think, the easy creation of the XR learning experience helps the correct technical training, registering the results. How did we, if you think about, I mean, Robin, I know you maybe weren't at this from the beginning because you're quite new to LMS 365, but what was the thought process? How did this come about as well?
Yeah, I think we looked at both the role of the trainer, the admin, right, and the learner, and trying to make the journey for both as easy as possible. So it should be easy for the trainer to create a course and be able to provide XR or VR based training to his employees, right? So that's the first and foremost, trying to give tools that just make that seamless without any copying around API keys and to make stuff work. Just it should be very, very simple. And the second one is LMS systems in general are web-based, and we need to help the learner going from a web-based experience into VR. So really holding their hand, trying to explain to them you need to pick up a headset, and just providing them with a simple code that sort of links the experiences together, so we can register everything correctly. And then in the end, to actually ensure that the results of that training is automatically put back into the LMS system without any manual work being done. Again, because that's the importance of the LMS system, right? You want to track the progress of your employees, how many have actually completed the course. And then I would say I had a fourth objective, more on the technical side, but I wanted to work towards a solution where we wouldn't need any custom development, where it would just using existing standards to make this completely seamless without any custom integration work done. And working up against a platform like LMS 365 just makes that very easy, because of course you support all of the common sort of learning management system standards like SCORM and XAPI and stuff like that. So it was easy to tap into that to make that integration basically zero, right? That was the objective to
I suppose from LMS 365 point of view, that's kind of almost your reason for being. You make it as simple as possible on every kind of element, and it fits into that a lot. Or
yeah, I mean, I've come in here as the chief product officer as well. I run, I'm the chief business officer and chief product officer, and part of my thinking is also how do we evolve the way that learners can engage with the content? I mean, because the reality is that people learn in different ways, right? Some people like listening to things, some people like reading things, some people like being fully immersed in it. And we've never really had the opportunity to fully immerse somebody into the learning environment itself. It's just been too hard. There's been technical blockers for being able to do that. And we're finally at the dawn of being able to break down that barrier. But the reality is people learn different ways, you know. Sometimes it's like you want an interactive quiz, sometimes watching a video, sometimes listening to something, you know, while you're going for a walk, so many different ways. But we've always had this huge barrier. The hardest has always been about how do you actually make it real for people, right? You know, because again, like theory versus the practical knowledge is one thing. And it feels like now with this integration, like we can finally break down that final barrier for that. But that is our whole reason, is like we want to make it engaging and easy for learners to get the knowledge that they need to be successful.
Yeah. And I suppose it goes back to what you said before, that you can see the future is this kind of immersive learning.
Absolutely. I mean, because it's always been too hard to achieve. It's always, I mean, it's not like it's the first time we've talked about this, right? But it's always been like a barrier to entry for everyone.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, makes sense. Well, rather than just talking about it, maybe we should have a quick look. And in this, we have a little bit of an exclusive for you guys, because this integration doesn't go live until later this month. I think it's the 18th, right? But we've made a little video so you can get a kind of an overview of how it works, specifically in LMS 365. So hopefully the video works. This is always the issue when you're doing stuff, you know, the technical side of it. Here goes. Nice.
Very cool.
Is that confetti thing in the email? Is that something that Microsoft has built in now when you say congratulations or something? I've never noticed that before.
Could be.
Like nice little Easter egg.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
It's like,
Yeah. I know.
Congratulations. But yeah, so I mean, that was just like real quick run through, and obviously a little bit of a summarized version, because it would take a little bit longer to go through the actual training itself. But maybe sooner you can go through a little bit of what we saw there.
Yeah. So without going into too much detail of the technical stuff, just to say, like, we start out in the video seeing a trainer create a training experience inside Synergy XR and save that into a virtual space. And then navigating to our web manager, you can just find that space and export a standard SCORM package that you can then create a course in LMS 365. You can add that as a media type content. That already encompasses all of the information needed to start that course. So now the system knows like where to put the user and stuff like that. So that's trying to make it as easy as possible for the trainer, right? And then when the learner logs in, gets an email like you're being assigned to this course, just clicks and you end up in LMS 365. You start the experience and you've been taking to this screen just basically saying like input this 6-digit code, and that will sort of tie the experience together. And then the learner jumps into VR, enters the pin, even gets like a small introduction to just the controls, because oftentimes maybe people are not that experienced in VR yet. So trying again to help them as much as possible, just to like which buttons to press, how to interact with the application. And then just start the training experience, and everything is like fully voice and visual guided. So you are guided throughout the training experience. And while this is going on, the LMS system continues to just checks our system, like if there's progress on this. So once you complete the training, it is being registered directly back into LMS 365, and you also end up in the video seeing the admin go into like the course overview, and you can see like, oh, Torben actually went through and completed that part of the course and stuff like that.
Yes, it's all automated, and the trainer doesn't necessarily have to do anything. It's all kind of, they talk together in the cloud or in the background or whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's just a matter of like using existing standard technologies to tie the knot together in a clever way that just works seamlessly without any further integration needed.
Yeah.
And I will just stress, like, we did not do any clever dev stuff behind the scenes to make this work. We even tested on other LMS systems as well. So it's like using these existing standards just is how we achieve this.
And to be clear, right? I mean, you don't have to go through that setup once in the beginning, right?
Exactly.
I like to learn, because when I just tried it, I didn't have to go through it because you'd already set it up for me, and it was just like I just put on the headset and I was good to go.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's great. You
Yeah,
just told me not to punch anyone. You know,
Yeah, and as soon as you created the course with the course material in LMS 365, you can enroll like all your employees or whoever is the training is relevant for, and you can like create separate trainings, just exporting separate SCORM packages for different needs, right?
Yeah.
So
and SCORM packages, if anyone doesn't know, that's basically the package you need to upload onto the system.
it is, yeah. So it's a by now very old standard used in the learning world, so to say. So it both contains all like the ability to package some training, but also there's also a runtime environment that we use to sort of continuously check if there's progress on the training.
Yeah. Okay. And this would then integrate like into LMS 365, just like any other course they wanted
seamlessly,
to.
as you just saw, right? I mean, everything just shows up in the system. I mean, you can create the courses there, you can track the courses there, you can nudge your users or your learners if you need to, and then they get notified. You know, in whatever environment they prefer. They could be in Teams, it could be in Outlook, as you just showed there on the screen. It could be other ways as well. You can integrate with text messaging if you need to, but it can be whatever preferred way that the learner needs to learn, basically. But everything is managed and tracked from the core console.
Yeah. But I mean, you can also integrate it, so it doesn't also only need to be VR training or other things. It could be like a quiz on a screen, or it could be some other.
And I think that's also
like
relevant to say, like, we all also often have to state that, like, we don't believe that you should put everything in VR. Like, it just doesn't make any sense. If there's a security brief, a PDF you need to read, like, read that in your browser. Like, for God's sake, don't pull that into VR, right? But only do the relevant.
It's gonna get really scary in VR than that security brief.
But yeah, I mean, and that's also how, like, in LMS 365 you can do that, like, mixed learning, so you can have a lot of different types of content. Now VR is just one of them.
That's right.
Yeah, I was just thinking, like, it would be stupid to I have to go put my VR headset on to go read this PDF. So
exactly.
You're doubling the length of time you'd otherwise take.
No, totally. I mean, this is why the future of learning is very much optimized for both the content, but also the individual learner style for sure, right? So content makes a difference. Like some content is much better in VR. And sometimes it's also based on what the learner can do. I know this is also where we're working a lot on our AI strategy. How do you, in real time, basically, based on how the learner wants to work, modify the content of the learning course to their style? So a learner should be able to say, hey, can you please show me this in VR? Then it should be able to instantly create a package around that, or a course. Or maybe I want to actually listen to this on my commute home on the bus. It should be able to like teach you what you need to know. So we're at the beginning. I think this like beautiful beginning of, we've got lots of like mega trends happening in AI and mixed reality. Like we've been talking about a lot of these things actually for the last 20, 30 years, but they're all becoming like ready to go mainstream, right? Yeah. And I think it's gonna make a huge difference for the learning environment.
Yeah. But I think, AI is the buzzword at the minute, and everything is gonna revolve something around that at some point, I imagine. So guys, like we talked about as well, 18th of September. I mean, Sune, do you have any a backstory? Has this been hard, difficult? Has it been easy, as simple as it sounds, or?
I think just part of the story actually is that our CEO has been in contact with your CTO like for the last 5 or 6 years, like continuously, because everybody just knows that there's something here, right?
Yes.
So there's been several attempts at doing something like this, and I think we needed to reach a maturity point of XR, and also like Synergy XR as a platform to just be ready and just like make this come true. And to your question, no, it hasn't been that difficult. We were through a few different design iterations, but very quickly agreed that we wanted to steer away from any custom development having to be done on LMS 365 side. So no custom APIs that we could hook into and stuff like that, and just base it on existing standards instead. Few UX studies, testing on different but it turned out fine. It's wasn't too difficult.
Well, I'm glad you said that, because when you talk about all the different testing and study, I'm like, wow, that sounds super difficult. But that's what you do every day, so I suppose that's pretty easy.
That's why he's the genius.
Yeah. Okay, guys. So moving on, how should someone start this journey if they want to use immersive learning in an LMS 365 kind of setup? What do you say, Robin, in terms of the things that they consider?
Well, I mean, there's lots of things to do, but we want to make it as easy as possible. The first thing is get pretty clear on like what it is that you need to elevate in your learning needs, your training needs, basically, and realize that there's a better way than you're probably doing it today. Most companies, honestly, most people are probably managing training through an Excel spreadsheet or some other kind of like manual process, and it's just horrible. It's not easy to manage, it's not easy to track, it's not easy to remind people of the courses they have to take and so on. And as you scale, it just becomes a daunting, if not impossible, task. That's why an LMS system exists, because it's a centralized way to manage all your training needs for your entire organization in a way that's fully visible to the company and to the people managing the courses themselves. You can see who's taking which courses, how they're progressing. Everything is audited. We get extensive reporting to the admins, but also to the CIOs and IT teams and so on, who need to get the visibility into how people are progressing and which ones they need to take versus want to take. So we manage all of that in one central platform. So it's like a revelation compared to probably what most companies are doing today. And it's completely integrated into the Microsoft stack, as we've talked about. And you can get started instantly. I would say if you want to try it out, go to our website, LMS 365, sign up for a free account. You can get started instantly.
Yeah, and I suppose everything is automated as well. That's probably one of the advantages, whether it is with integrating the Synergy XR system or just a general course.
That's right.
It kind of saves everyone a little bit of time, so everything gets done for you, essentially. So one of the things is evaluating your training needs. We've written on the slide here. It's maybe not for everyone. I think we touched upon it a little bit. Is that does it make sense to have an XR training for someone who goes in to read a security or a safety notice on a PDF? Probably not. But not. There's elements of these hard kind of training scenarios within machinery and manufacturing, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I think those scenarios are often highlighted, right? Because it's one of those very, very tangible types of training where you can really like gain that muscle memory. So it's definitely a candidate to start with training like more hard skills. But there's also a lot of benefits in training soft skills. So that could be like customer engagement or like sales training. It could even be like, we see a lot of like more soft onboarding training. So like learn the company, the value, the vision of the company. See not just the product you produce, but where is it actually being installed in the real world? Where is it that it delivers value to the end user? To really understand like your role in that end user's value creation, right? So there's a lot of different also softer skill training that you could look at. That should be prime candidates for creating XR training, but certainly not everything. Like we can all agree on that. Like don't go into VR to read a PDF or do a multiple choice test, that's right? We have better systems for that, and that's why the integration is so important, right? So do the stuff that is just well managed in the learning management system, and then do the more engaged training in the platform like Synergy XR.
Yeah, I suppose. I mean, here we've written we speak to a Synergy XR expert, but I suppose you could equally as much speak to someone from LMS 365 to build that kind of diversified training scenarios.
Completely. I mean, our tagline is actually "Learn like you."
Yeah,
we just won a prestigious Red Dot Award for our new brand and our tagline. And our tagline is "Learn like you" because learning needs are different depending on what you need to learn, how you learn, also based on what the company needs you to learn, right? So there's many different ways. I think this is a revolution in how immersive it can get and how engaging learning can get, but it's not like it's going to be right for everything. But I will also say, I think we often show these videos of people learning something on a factory floor or something like that. But there's definitely a strong case for how it can also elevate the soft skills that somebody needs. Maybe it's communication skills, presentation skills. Maybe it's about how to actually deal with customers. Could be lots of different things as well. But it's just sometimes it's a little bit harder to show. But as this technology also progresses, that's going to be a key part of how you actually learn.
I mean, and then I suppose the last part is the actual hardware. Because I mean, we have various different examples of customers starting out slowly, and I suppose you don't want to go out and buy 100 headsets right off the bat.
I would very rarely suggest that. Yeah, exactly. And that's also why we have like reach out, talk to us. Like we've been doing this for a lot of years, so we understand the needs. We also understand how to go sort of from a pilot phase to a scale up to a full sort of full scale deployment. So yeah, certainly we can advise you in how many headsets and what hardware to use. Like we don't just support VR headsets, we also support like PC platform and even like mobile phone in your pocket. So there are several ways to interact with this virtual training. So we can guide you in that, find the most appropriate headsets. There's always something new just around the corner. So should you buy what's currently available or just wait a little bit of what's coming next? Or like we can definitely guide you on that. So yeah, start small, find a good pilot, see the value creation, and then scale from there. That's usually what we suggest.
Yeah. Okay, so if we want to really cut it out sharp, what's the route of action here? What does someone need to do?
Go today. Go to lms365.com, sign up for a free account, and try it out.
And then
basically the same. You can go to synergyxr.com and sign up for a free account. And as we mentioned before, the integration is fully automated. There's no extra work needed, so you can actually get started right away. But yeah, and also reach out to experts on either side to get help on that part.
Yeah, and the whole thing goes live. So if you're seeing this when it's released, there's a couple of days. But if you're watching this on record, pop us a note in the meeting or the video notes, and we'll get back to you. Otherwise, we'll send you a follow up by email afterwards.
Yeah, with links and everything.
Yeah.
Just one click, get started. It's that easy.
Yeah. So I think we're reaching towards the end now. I think we've had some really good discussions actually about what it is, what do you guys do, how the integration works, why we're doing it. I suppose it's about, Robin, you put it perfectly, about the immersive element of it, and that's kind of the way the future is moving. And then what to expect, and a little bit about, if that was of interest, how to kind of put that into play. I think there's one more thing though. There's one more thing, and I think in true kind of Apple style, one more thing.
Okay. What is this?
It is the Apple Pro, Vision Pro, and the Meta Quest. It's like,
I was wondering if we were going to talk about this. It's like the elephant in the room. I'm glad you brought it up.
But it's Do you know that they're moving into the space and it's making a little bit more mainstream? So I mean, just a little bit of a general discussion. What do you think that means for this?
I was going to ask you, but I'm like, okay, we're going to talk about this. But it feels like definitely we're at a tectonic shift in the industry. When Apple enters something, I always think of it this way: Apple's never first with anything.
Mm-hmm.
They're never first, but they're always best. But they always talk about themselves like they're first. It's like a ninja move that they do. They're very good at it, but they're never first with anything, but they're always best. And they don't enter space unless they want to be the best one in there. And the release of, or at least the keynote that they had recently, shows that everything's about to change. So even the stats that we showed earlier from the PricewaterhouseCoopers, they might even be actually smaller, because once Apple enters a space, like when they did with the smartphone or the tablet and so on, even the watch, I mean, now Apple Watch is the biggest watch manufacturer in the world, bigger than all the other watch companies combined, right? But it took them a while to get there. I mean, they have so much cash on hand, they have such a long-term view on things that they don't rush it, right? Having said that, so we'll see. I mean, when it first was released, honestly, the Vision Pro, or the first announced, I should say, it hasn't been released yet, I was like, a little skeptical about this, but all the reviews so far have been unreal, right? But again, I think back to when the first phone came out. I think there was a lot of excitement about that, but there was really no apps for it. It took a while for the apps and the ecosystem to be built out. Then the iPad came out, and I thought, this is so stupid. It's like a giant phone. Who's going to buy this?
Exactly.
Right? Everyone
what is this? What is this for?
Who needs this, right? And now everyone has an iPad and so on. Again, like, they're never first, but they're always best. And I feel like if they built an ecosystem up of apps and experiences like what we've talked about today, I think this could be a game. This could bring mixed reality into the mainstream, I think. I don't know about you.
No, I think in general I agree. Like, we've been waiting for this for so long. Like, they bought Mataio back in 2016 or something like that, entering sort of the AR market, and they've been doing some great stuff on mobile augmented reality. So we've been looking for them to finally sort of like unveil what they've been working on. And so I very much agree, like, this will help make this stuff a commodity. Initially, I see this more as sort of a developer device, to be honest. The price point is certainly not something that will just enable everybody to just go out and buy one. We need to look a bit more to the right on the Quest 3. We can touch upon that in a second. But what they do, as you say, they don't do it well, they do it best. So eye tracking, the interaction, hand tracking, gestures, stuff like that. Like, it should just be second to none. I can't wait to get my hands on one of these.
I can't wait either.
And actually also start, like, we're doing a lot of stuff behind the scenes technically to be ready for this device. And we have frequent discussions with Apple, but everybody wants to get their hands on this device, so we are queuing up.
I'm sure you're going to be like the first one to integrate with it, I would imagine, just knowing you guys.
That would be amazing. So Apple, if you're watching.
Exactly.
But yeah, looking more at sort of the mainstream, like Quest 3 is also, it has been announced and everybody expects it to be released end of September at Meta Connect. And it's sort of like, it's this $500 device with like full color pass through, so similar to what the Apple Vision Pro actually offers. Still controllers, but with the new controllers that they borrowed from their Pro. So like it enables, like, they can track themselves, so much more intuitive and better tracking and stuff like that. So I would say that's definitely like an iterative improvement, whereas the Vision Pro, they're trying to really make that like much bigger leap, right? Really bring something new to the table.
That's what I'm saying. Like, they're never finished up, but they always kind of talk about themselves like at first, and even the use cases they showed were. They weren't really gaming. So often these headset manufacturers, they come out like they show games and immersive, and it's like, then it makes it seem like this niche device for gamers, right? And not that gaming is a niche because it's a huge industry, but it kind of already pigeonholes it as something. And the Apple keynote was very much like, you can work here, you can talk to somebody, you can do some work, you can surf the web, you can watch movies. Like, it's very broad, That's why it'll be super interesting to see. Like, what it can actually do when it comes out.
And I think, to be honest, that's also what they were trying to achieve. They want to get this into the hands of clever developers to really show what you can do with a device like this. Also because they know their marketplace, the apps that they can offer on their devices is what makes the difference.
So if you want to send to a clever developer, you should send it to this guy.
We won't say no. We won't say no.
I mean, that's the Apple way, though, isn't it? It's making demand for a use case that isn't actually there yet, and then building from there, kind of thing.
Completely.
But yeah. Okay, guys, but that's been super informative. Yeah, I'm super excited to see what the Apple Vision Pro and the new hardware, but as well as this integration when it goes live 18th of September. Also if any of your customers are actually thinking out there and thinking,
sure,
this would be super cool for us as well.
Yeah,
and
I mean, when I look at our customer base, a lot of it are traditional manufacturers or companies who make physical goods. Yeah, absolutely. They should talk to us about this integration as well.
Yeah. Cool. So if you're out there and you're interested, you know to reach out to your account manager. I'd imagine everyone has one. Thank you very much, guys, for your time. Thank you everyone for watching. Until next time, we'll bring something new to you then.
All right. Thanks, Andy.
Thanks, Farid.
Right.
Thanks,
yeah, thanks a lot.
That was mad. It's pretty warm here, isn't it?
It is. Yeah. I think it's also quite long by now.
Because we bring the heat,
Yeah, exactly.